Assalamu alaikum. This is our second lecture of managerial economics, and topic is demand, supply, and market equilibrium. In previous lecture, we have discussed various topics of fundamental managerial economics. Let's start with a very fundamental and very powerful framework used to economics, which is called the demand and supply framework. It is very simple because it is very simple framework, but very powerful because it can be used and understand lot of changes in the market and lot of interactions in the market. um, this demand and supply framework used in any kind of market, may it perfect competition or imperfect competition. Okay, before going into the actual framework, let me show you what the kind of contents we are going to address in this lecture. First of all, we will discuss what is demand and how it is determined. Here we will discuss general demand function, direct demand function, inverse demand function, and shifting in demand curves. After this we will discuss supply, general supply function, direct supply function, inverse supply function, and changings in supply curves. What changes comes in supply curves? So first we will discuss demand. What is demand? Basically demand means the quantity of a good which the consumers are willing to purchase at different prices. And what is individual demand? The quantity of a commodity which a consumer is ready to purchase at different prices. That is called demand. So quantity demanded, amount of a good or service consumers are willing and able to purchase during a given period of time at different prices. So before purchasing a good, there should be in consumer mind two things. First of all, ability to purchase for that good, and willingness or desire to purchase. For example, if a person want to purchase iPhone but he has no ability to purchase it, it's not demand. So there should be two things must in consumer mind before purchasing a good, and that is ability to purchase and willingness or desire to purchase. So this is demand. And next is general demand function. 6 variables that influence quantity demand. So before discussing these variables, I will tell you about law of demand. What is law of demand? If other things remains constant, when the price of a good decrease, its quantity demand increase, and when its price increases, its demand decreases. So here is negative relationship between price and quantity demand. So the demand has negative slope, and in law of demand we assume some assumptions like size of a good should not change, taste of a good should not change, weather should not change, income should not change, and price of substitute goods or related goods should be constant, should not change, and no discovery of new substitutes, population remains constant. So we assume some assumptions in law of demand, and when these assumptions violate, then definitely it will affect quantity demand. So here first variable is price, and price of good or service may be changed, income of consumers may be changed. So when income of consumer will change and prices will change, it definitely will affect quantity demand, and prices of related goods and services uh, may change. So in law of demand, these variables should not change. If these variables will change, then it definitely will affect quantity demand. So taste pattern of consumers, um, in law of demand, taste pattern of consumer should not change, but here if it change, then it will affect quantity demand. Expected future price of product may change, number of consumer in market may change. So number of consumer may increase or decrease. So if the number of consumers will increase, it will affect quantity demand. So general function is equal to quantity demand is equal to function of price. um, M denote income of consumers, and prices of related goods. Taste of consumers, price of uh, future price of product, expected number of consumers in market. So here quantity demand function is equal to price, income of consumers, price of related goods, um, taste pattern of consumers, expected future price, and number of consumers. Here QD is equal to A plus BP. Here P represent the prices plus CM, and M represent the income of consumer plus DPR. PR represent price of related goods plus E, and taste of consumer partner plus price of expected future expected goods plus N represent here number of consumers. So when here A represent here A is constant, and constant cannot change as you know, and B, C, D, E, F, and G are here slope of parameters. So when here are price P, M, price of related good, and taste of consumers partner, and price of expected good, and number of consumer. These are all um, independent variables. So when our one independent variable will change, like consumer income will change, it definitely will affect our um, dependent variable, which is here quantity demand. Measure effect on quantity demand of changing one of the variables by holding the others constant. So when one variable of independent variable will change, it definitely will affect our quantity demand. And sign of parameters shows how variable is related to quantity demand. If sign is positive sign, indicate direct relationship. Direct relationship mean both goods both move in the same way. Like if one good price will increase, other good quantity demand will also increase. So in substitute goods, uh, if one good is price is, will increase, other good quantity demand will increase. So here is positive relationship. Next is negative sign. Negative sign indicates inverse relationship. Inverse relationship mean both goods moves in inversely. Like if one good price will increase, other good quantity demand will decrease. So here is negative relationship. So in complements, here we give example of complementary goods. For example, if the price of a car will increase, so the quantity demand of of petrol will decrease. So here is a negative relationship between car and petrol. So in complementary goods, um here is negative relationship. This table shows the relationship between independent variables. Here independent variables are price, income of consumers, price of related goods, um, taste of consumers, and price of expected future expected prices, and a number of and represent number of consumers. So the relationship between independent variable with dependent variable. Here dependent variable is quantity demand. So here the relationship price and quantity demand is inverse, because when price will increase, quantity demand will decrease, and when quantity demand will increase, price will decrease. So here relationship between price and quantity demand is negative. So here slope is negative. So B here is slope of parameter, and B is equal to change in quantity demand over change in price. Next is M represent here income of consumer. So income of consumer for normal goods, here relationship is direct mean here relationship is positive, and when consumer income will increase, he will purchase more goods, more normal goods and less inferior goods, because and so the relationship with normal goods is positive, because both are moving same way, and the relationship between consumer income with inferior goods is negative. So here C is equal to, say C is slope of parameter, which is equal to change in quantity demand over change in consumer income. Next is price of related goods. So price of related goods may be substitute goods or complements goods. So in substitute case, here relationship with the price and substitute goods are um, positive and direct relation, because when for example Pepsi and Coke both are related goods. So when the price of Coke will increase, the price of Pepsi will quantity demanded of Pepsi will also increase, because here the price of Coke increase. So people buy more units of more quantity of Pepsi, and the relationship in substitute good is positive, because here both goods move same way, like D is equal to change in quantity demand over change in price, which is equal to positive, and price relationship with related good, which is complement goods, is the inverse, because complement goods are those goods which purchase uh, one another. Like if the price of car will increase, so the quantity demand of petrol also increase. So sorry, when the price of car will increase, the quantity demand of petrol will decrease, because prices of vehicles when increase, so people purchase less cars. So definitely they will use and they will utilize less units of petrol. So here is a negative relationship between price and complement goods. So here the slope will be negative, and D is equal to change in quantity demand over change in price. So price of related goods for substitute goods here, here um, relation is direct, and price of related goods like complements here the um, relation is inverse. Next is consumer tastes. So when consumer taste um, relation with the quantity demand will direct, they move in the same way. When they move in the same way, then the slope of parameter will be positive. Next is price of future expected goods. So the prices of future expected goods and quantity demand will also direct, because when they also move in the same way, both are increase or uh, both are move same way, they may be increase or decrease. So here change in quantity demand over change in price is positive. So here slope of parameter is positive. Next is number of consumers. So number of consumer may be increase or decrease. So here the relation also direct, because when the number of consumers will increase, definitely uh, they will demand of a good more. So when the number of consumers will increase, demand also increase. Here the relationship is positive. So with price, relationship is inverse, and other variables like number of consumers, price of expected future goods, and taste of consumers with consumers is positive. And the with substitute goods price relation is direct, but in complement goods relation is inverse. And with normal goods relation is positive, with income, consumer income, and um, with inferior goods relation is inverse. Direct demand function. The direct demand function, or simply demand, shows how quantity demanded is related to product price when all other variables are held constant. So as I said in previous slide, that the relationship between price and quantity demand is negative, and this is the law of we also call it law of demand. Um, all other variables are held constant when the price of a good will increase, its quantity demand will decrease, and when the price of a good will decrease, its quantity demand will increase. This is also called the law of demand. Law of demand: quantity demanded increases when price falls, and quantity demanded decreases when price rises, all else constant. So change in quantity demanded over change in price must be negative. So here relationship is negative, and the slope of demand is also negative. Inverse demand function. Traditionally, price is plotted on the vertical axis and quantity demanded is plotted on the horizontal axis. So we take quantity demanded on x-axis, and we take traditionally it on horizontally, and uh, price and we take price as on x-axis. So the equation plotted is the inverse demand function. So here the slope of demand is negative, and price is equal to function of quantity demand. Graphing demand curves. A point on a direct demand curve shows either maximum amount of a good that will be purchased for a given price, and maximum price consumers will pay for a specific amount of the good. look at this picture, you can see that here on x-axis we are taking quantity demanded, and this is horizontal curve, and on vertical curve on y-axis we are taking prices. So when our price is 120, you can see that here our quantity demand is 200, and then our um, price is 100, there our quantity demand is 400. So when our price will be decrease, our quantity demanded will be increase. So by joining these points on demand curve, we get a demand curve, and demand curve slope is negative here. Graphing demand curves. Change in quantity demanded occurs when prices change. So when price will increase, changes comes in quantity demand, as I said in previous slide. Movement along demand curve. So um, it can be movement along curve, demand curve. Demand curve may shift above or may shift down. Change in demand occurs when one of the other variable or determinant of demand changes. So when one variable will change, our or we so changes occur in demand, determinant of demand curve shift rightward or leftward. So our demand curve may shift um, downward and upward. Shifts in demand. So on x-axis we are taking quantity demand horizontally, and on y-axis we are taking price vertically. So here are three demand curves. um, Shifts in demand occur due to change in price. Price will increase or decrease, and other factors. Other factor means consumers' income will increase or decrease. Consumer taste will change. So weather will change, and other factors also will change. So due to this, due to change in other factors, demand shift above or downward. So when price will increase and demand will decrease, so demand curve will shift onward, and we also call it contraction. So when price will decrease and quantity demand will increase, so our demand curve will shift above or upward, and we also call it shift rightward. So when demand curve will shift rightward, so we called it extension. So when quantity demand will increase, our demand will shift above, and it we also called it extension. And when our quantity demand will decrease and our demand curve will shift um, leftward and downward, we called it uh, contraction. So when demand will contract, it will shift downward, and then demand will um, uh, shift above, it will extend. This is the summary of demand shifts. So here are determinants of demand, which changes the demand curves upward or downward. So the factors which changes demand curves are income, price of related goods, consumer taste, expected price, and number of consumers. So these factors will change demand curve upward and downward. So when income will increase, so demand for normal goods also increase, and when income will decrease, demand for normal good fall. So here the relationship is income and demand. Rise income and demand is normal good. Income effect on normal good is positive and direct, and for when income is increased and for inferior good, uh, demand is also fall. So when income will increase, so demand for inferior good will fall, and when income will fall, demand for inferior good rise. So here here the slope of parameter um, is um, negative. So when income will rise for inferior good. So here demand will decrease, and when income for inferior good um, will fall, so demand for inferior good will rise. Um, so here the relation for income with inferior good is negative and C less than equal to 0. Price of related goods. Related goods are substitute goods and complement goods. So when price of substitute good will rise, so quantity demanded of other good will also rise, and when price of substitute good will fall, quantity demanded for other good also fall. So here the relationship between um, price and substitute goods is direct. So here D, which is slope of parameter greater than 0, and relationship with complements goods with price is negative. When price of a complement good will fall, um, so quantity demanded for other good which is related to complement good is also fall. For example, when the price of car will when the price of car sorry when the price of a car um, will fall, so quantity demanded um, of petrol will rise. So here the relationship between price and complement goods is negative. When the price of a complement good will rise, so the quantity demanded of other complement good is fall. So here the relationship between price and complement good is negative. So D here is slope of parameter which is less than equal to 0. Next is consumer taste. So relationship between consumer taste with demand is when consumer taste will increase, demand also rises, and here the relationship is direct relationship. When the consumer taste is fall, so demand decrease. So here is direct relation. So relation of expected price and demand, so is also direct. When expected price will rise, so demand will increase, and when expected price will fall, demand decrease. So here relationship is positive. F here is slope of parameter which is greater than 0. Number of consumers, so relationship between number of consumer and quantity demand also direct, because when number of consumer will rise, so demand also increase, and when number of consumers will decrease, so demand also decrease. Here the slope of parameter is g is greater than 0. So relations demand with other factors may be direct or indirect. So changes which um, comes in uh, due to other factors affect quantity demanded. So our demand curve will shift Due to this, our demand curve shift above and shift down. So when our demand curve will shift above, we can say it extension, and our quantity demand will increase. So when our demand curve will shift downward and leftward, we can say that here demand will decrease, and here demand is contracted, or you called it contraction. What is supply? Quantity supplied, amount of a good or service offered for sale during a given period of time. So stock basically the total quantity, and supply is a part of stock. So in law of supply, other things remains constant. When the price of a good increases, its quantity supplied increases, and vice versa. So here is positive relationship between price and quantity supplied. When price will be increased, quantity supplied also increase, and when price is decreased, quantity supplied decrease. So here is direct relationship and positive relationship among price and quantity supplied. Here are 6 variables that influence quantity supplied: price of good or service, input prices may be labor and capital prices, prices of goods related in production, technological advances, expected future price of product, number of firms producing product. So due to these variables, when these variables will change, then quantity supply also change. So these variables um, influence the quantity supply. So because in law of supply, no change in cost of production, no change should be in technology, no change should be in production technique, no restrictions should be from government, no change in climate, and no change in even behavior of sellers. So if these changes uh, comes in a model, then quantity supply also will change. So here general supply function is equal to price of good and service, input prices P1 we will denote PI, and prices of goods related in production, technological advances, expected future price of product, and number of firms producing product. So here Q is equal to P, PI, and PR, technological advances, and PE and F. Here is the quantity supplied equation, where H represent constant and K, L, M, N, R and S are slope of parameters. Here P, PI, P, R, T, PE and F are the variables we also called independent variables, and QS here is dependent variable. So Meyer effect on QS of changing one of the variable while holding the others constant. So when one variable will change and others remain constant, then due to change of one variable, changes comes in quantity supplied, which is our dependent variable. So here positive signs indicate direct relation. Direct relations mean both um, variable dependent and independent variable move in same way. Negative sign indicates inverse relationship. So if the relationship is direct, that is positive, and if the relationship is indirect, that is negative. Shifts in demand. So on x-axis we are taking quantity demand horizontally, and on y-axis we are taking price vertically. So here are three demand curves. Um, Shifts in demand occur due to change in price. Price will increase or decrease, and other factors. Other factor means consumers' income will increase or decrease. Consumer taste will change. So weather will change, and other factors also will change. So due to this, due to change in other factors, demand shift above or downward. So when price will increase and demand will decrease, so demand curve will shift downward, and we also called it contraction. So when price will decrease and quantity demand will increase, so our demand curve will shift above or upward, and we also call it shift rightward. So when demand curve will shift rightward, so we called it extension. So when quantity demand will increase, our demand will shift above, and it we also called it extension. And when our quantity demand will decrease and our demand curve will shift um, leftward and downward, we called it uh, contraction. So when demand will contract, it will shift downward, and then demand will um, uh, uh, shift above, it will extend. Next is direct supply function. A direct supply function, or simply supply, shows how quantity supply is related to product price when all other variables are held constant. As I said in previous slide, that there is positive and direct relationship between quantity supply and prices. So other things remains constant. When a price will increase, when a good price will increase, um, so quantity supplied will also increase, and when the price will decrease, quantity supplied will decrease. So both variables move in same way. So here is direct and positive relationship between price and quantity supply with price. Here quantity supply is uh, dependent variable and price is independent variable, because changes comes due to change in price. Next is inverse supply function. So traditionally price is plotted on the vertical axis and quantity supplied is plotted on the horizontal axis. So the equation plotted is the inverse supply function. So for example, is inverse supply function is equal to price equal to function of quantity of supplied. So we will take prices on vertical axis and quantity supplied on horizontal axis. Graphing supply curves. A point on a direct supply curve shows either maximum amount of a good that will offered for sale at a given price, that is the definition of supply. Minimum price necessary to induce producer to voluntarily offer particular quantity for sale. Look at this figure. Uh, this figure shows the positive relationship between prices and quantity supplied. So on vertical axis we are taking prices, and on horizontal axis we are taking quantity supplied. Here when prices will increase, quantity supply also increase. So this um, so supply curve move from left to right, and it move upward. So this um, this supply curve shows positive relationship between and direct relationship between quantity supply and price. Change in quantity supplied. Uh, Changes in quantity supplied occurs when price changes. So when price will increase or decrease, due to this our quantity supplied will change. Movement along supply curve, and movement along the supply curve uh, may be caused by a shift in demand. So when demand curve will shift, movement along supply curve occur. Change in supply. Change in supply occurs when one of the other variables or determinant of supply changes. For example, prices. When prices will change, it shifts supply curve downward or leftward. And the effect of a subsidy is to shift the supply curve downward or rightward. So when other variables, one or other variables will change, it will shift supply curve. Supply curve shift rightward or leftward. So as I said, um, as I told you that the effect of a subsidy, when government will increase subsidies, so our supply will increase and it shift the supply curve downward or rightward. So when our supply will decrease, our supply curve will shift leftward and upward. Next is shifts in supply. Look at this figure. Here are three supply curves. Our supply curve may shift rightward and downward, and it also will shift upward and leftward. So here we will discuss when our supply curve will shift rightward and when our supply curve shift leftward. You can see that horizontally we are taking quantity supplied and vertically we are taking price. So when our quantity supplied will increase more than our price, then our curve will shift rightward. So it may due to improvement in technology, so and it may also um, uh, it can be more favorable weather for agriculture products, so it will shift supply curve rightward and downward. Because when improvement in technology occur, so the price of resources used in the production of a commodity will decrease. So here our supply will increase. When our supply will increase, our curve shift rightward, and when our supply will decrease due to weather condition, like our weather is not suitable for agriculture commodities, so our supply will reduce and our supply curve will shift leftward and upward. This table shows a summary of supply shifts. So here are some determinants which affect our supply curves. These factors are price of inputs, price of related goods, goods may be substitute goods and complement goods, state of technology, expected price, and number of firms. So due to these factors our supply curve will shift. So prices of inputs when prices of inputs will fall, so our supply will increase, and when our prices of inputs rise our supply decrease. So here is negative relationship. And price of related goods with substitute goods is um, negative relationship, and with complement goods is positive relationship. Here is some mistake, here sign of slope parameter m will be here m will be less than 0, and in complement goods m will be m greater than 0. Sorry, here is mistake. State of technology. In state of technology, when when technology will improve, our supply will increase, and when our technology improvement will decrease, our supply also decrease. Here is positive relationship and direct relationship. Expected price. When future expected prices will fall, so supply increase, and when expected price rise, so supply decrease. Here is negative relationships. Number of firms, productive capacity in industry. So here with the number of firms with supply increase, um, when firms rises, so supply increase, and when firms falls, supply decrease. Here is positive relationship. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.